Everybody, it's Dana. Welcome back. Today we're going to be playing with the Concord 9th Hope Labels die. I absolutely love this die, and when I saw it, I knew exactly what I wanted to make with it. So let's go ahead and get started. Today I'm going to be blending on some Canson watercolor paper with some Distress Oxide ink. Now, I like to store the foam for each one of my Distress Oxide inks right underneath each one of the little containers. I do this by just using a little piece of Velcro and just taping it on underneath. Now for this technique, you guys have seen me do this before, and probably some other crafters as well. I'm just putting down even coverage, and actually it doesn't even have to be even because this Distress Oxide ink blends very, very well together. So my two colors today is picked, oh no, not picked raspberry, peacock feather, sorry about that, and cracked pistachio. I love these two colors together because they remind me almost of the sea. Almost like if the two warm colors of the water and the cooler colors of the water blend together. So I'm going back and forth with both of my colors, just trying to blend those colors together. Now, I don't worry if any of my pads get contaminated, my foam pads get contaminated, because after I'm done with each one of them, I spritz them off on the bottom, scribble them off on a piece of scratch paper, and they're good as new. So I'm just going to add a little bit more color and blend that out, and that looks great. So see how pretty that background already looks? But we're going to ramp that up a little bit because I love this Distress Oxide inks. I'm going to go ahead and grab my Distress sprayer, and I'm going to spritz some water on here. Now this is when the magic happens because it oxidizes that beautiful ink and it gets like this milky color. And I swear, I cannot get enough of these inks. It's absolutely so gorgeous. Look how beautiful that looks, like little bubbles. I'm going to spritz a little bit more, let it sit there for a minute, and then I'm just going to dab up that water. Now I didn't use a lot, so I really don't have to heat set this. So next I'm going to go ahead and grab my die. And for me, this die spoke volumes for some reason. I don't know what it is, but this is like my favorite die. So I'm going to place this right down in the middle of my paper, and I'm going to grab some washi tape. Now for this card, it's going to be a very clean and simple card. So there's not going to be a lot going on because I really want this die to be the centerpiece of my card. So I'm going to line it up right in the middle, and I'm going to take this to my die cutting machine. Now as you can see, it cuts in all these little hash marks into my cardstock. So I'm going to pop all those out. I'm going to go ahead and grab my tweezers and give me a little bit of help there. And look how beautiful this word looks. It is absolutely stunning. Look at that. I don't know what it is. This is probably one of my favorite dies. It's just absolutely beautiful. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab the label. Now I'm not going to use this as far as cutting it out into the paper. I'm actually going to inlay it. So I'm going to line up right around that sentiment, and I'm just going to lightly use some washi tape and tape it into place. Now I want that to sit right there. Now I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab my Sizzix machine, and instead of die cutting this out, I'm going to emboss it. I'm going to just make that stitch label imprint directly into that cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and lay that down. I'm going to use my tan embossing mat right on top. And then I can put my acrylic plate on top of that. And then I can run that through my machine. Now that's going to keep it from actually die cutting through my paper. And it's just going to give me the impression instead. Because I don't want to actually cut out a label, but I just want that stitching to be around that beautiful sentiment. So now I'm going to gently pull off that washi tape because I don't want it to tear my card. So I'm going to easily pull that back. And then you're going to just see that I'm just going to have that nice little stitching around that sentiment. So can you see? Just a little bit of stitching right around. It looks absolutely beautiful. Okay, now since that's done, I want to turn this into a shaker card. Now, I don't want this shaker card to be over the top, but I do want something right behind this pretty sentiment. So I'm going to use some score tape here, and I'm just going to put it directly behind the sentiment. So I believe this here is the 1/8 of an inch, if I remember correctly, score tape. And I'm going to go ahead and make sure I have it evenly around. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and burnish that down with my fingers because I really want to make sure that's sticking very well to the back of that paper because it does have a little bit of texture to it. I'm going to go ahead and pull off the release paper. I would usually at this point use acetate for the back of my window, but I'm going to use some tulle instead. So this, some people are also refer to it as netting, but I was going to use the blue, but then I decided to go with the white instead. So this is something that's relatively available in most of your craft stores or your fabric stores, and it's really, really inexpensive. You can get a whole bunch of this for really, really cheap. So I'm going to go ahead and place this down right behind my sentiment. And I'm going to push that down into the tape really, really well. And now all I have to do is trim off the excess. I do remember having this stuff too underneath my Easter dresses when I was younger. It used to scratch me. But now I use it on my cards and I think it's fabulous. So now it's just a nice little netting right behind my hope. Now for the rest of my card, to turn this into a shaker card, I'm going to use some foam tape and I'm going to double it up on itself. I'm going to grab my Tonic Studio scissors, and these are nice long scissors so I can cut straight down the middle of this tape and make it thinner. Because for this, it doesn't really need to be a wide piece of tape because I'm just trying to keep the components of my shaker card just behind the word hope. So I'm just going to neatly tuck the tape. I want to make sure that the ends are touching. Because I'm going to be using a smaller sequence, I want to make sure that none of the sequence escapes. So I'm going to make sure that I have all of the ends touching each other. So I'm going to place down this piece right here, and then you're really going to see me kind of tuck in that piece right with my finger now, just to make sure those two pieces are touching. And then I'm going to grab my X-Acto knife, and I'm just going to go ahead and trim that down. And then I know there's no seepage. There's no way that my sequence is going to get out. I'm going to use my EK Success tool. That's my powder tool. And that's just to make sure that my sequence does not stick to my tape. Now the sequence I want to put in today is a pretty mix that I picked up from Simon Says Stamp. And it matches perfectly with all the pretty colors that we have on the front. So I do have a little bit of yellow in there and some green and some blue. I think this was like a sea medley that I ended up picking up, but it just matched perfectly with this. Now I am going to add a little bit more sequence because this is a shaker card. So I want to make sure that I do have enough so when the recipient gets it, you know, when they shake, they're going to make sure that they can hear something rattling behind that beautiful sentiment. So I'm going to add just some clear ones. Now, like I said, this sequence is rather small, so that's why I chose to make sure that my tape is really butted up against each other. So I'm just going to get the last bit of all of that goodness into that shaker card. And I see one that's trying to escape, but it's going to go in there. And now I just need to seal up the back. And I'm just going to do that with just a regular white piece of paper. I'm going to press really, really firmly just to make sure that we have nothing that's going to fall out. And then we have a beautiful shaker card. Absolutely love how this turned out. Okay, so now all I did was put on another layer of foam tape. And I can go ahead and put this onto a white card base. Now, like I said, this card is one that can be easily replicated in so many beautiful colors. Look how gorgeous that looks. Absolutely beautiful. Now, I want to keep this card really, really simple. So I'm only going to add a few totally clear gems. Now, to adhere these, I'm going to use my multi-matte medium because this is going to dry clear on my card. And I'm not going to add any other sentiment, no other color. I'm going to leave it exactly like this. Now, this kind of card is perfect for anything, for a birthday, for an anniversary, for just to tell somebody, I hope they have a great day. I'm sending you hope, love, and joy. I absolutely love this sentiment. Can you tell? All right, everybody, there it is. That is the card. I hope you guys like it. Here is a close-up of it totally done. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today, and I'll see you guys in another video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.